Hello everybody, my name is ProfRich and today we are talking about learning English, and I will be taking your questions and giving you whatever answer I can. I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello, once again, my name is ProfRich. And I'll be taking questions from you, but first, let's get bigger. But first, I have a question for you. What do you look forward to every day? What do you look forward to every day? We have a nice phrasal verb there of look forward to. Look forward to in English, as you know, is a rather nice way of talking about something in the future which excites you. Something which you want to happen, which excites you. Look forward to. It's something like be excited about something in the future. Be excited about something in the future. Something a little bit like that. So, what do you look forward to every day? Answers in the chat. I'm going to give you some ideas for my answer, what things that I look forward to every day. If I didn't eat much before I went to bed, then I look forward to breakfast. If I didn't eat much before I went to bed, I look forward to breakfast. Sometimes Google Docs just drives me crazy, you know. Finally. All right. I look forward to breakfast. These are my answers. If I didn't eat much before I went to bed, I look forward to breakfast. I also look forward to coffee. I look forward to my first coffee of the day the most. But I look forward to every coffee pretty much. There is a point when you've had too much coffee and then you don't look forward to coffee anymore. But I look forward to coffee. And I look forward to finishing all my work. And that includes duties for the day. I realize some people don't live like that. Some people don't live with the possibility of finishing all their duties for the day. But for me, I really look forward to the point every day when I've finished all my work and all my duties for that moment. And since I've capitalized the others, then I will capitalize these ones as well. So there's my answers: breakfast, coffee, and finishing all my work for the day. Julia says, I look forward to living the fullest life in my daily routine. That sounds pretty fancy, Julia. When I'm asking about looking forward to something every day, I mean every day, what do you look forward to? So when you wake up and throughout the day, what do you feel like? I'm excited about this thing today. Ashley Chen is looking forward to retirement and holidays. So again, Ashley, that's not every day. You're talking specifically about the future. I want to know every day. What do you look forward to every day? I look forward to watching something interesting before sleeping. That's a good one, Sleepwalker. What kind of things do you like to watch? What kind of things do you like to watch? Mina says, I look forward to seeing my mother's face. That's lovely. And Maria del Carmen says, I look forward to going swimming. Do you go swimming every day, Maria del Carmen? Let's go swimming as a verb. I look forward to going swimming. Go swimming. So we have a traveling verb there, go swimming. Sleepwalker says, I enjoy walking if I have time. Just a reminder, everybody, if you have any questions about English, put those in the chat and I will go through them. I'm trying to keep track of the questions that we have so far. There's one from Sleepwalker about rather. Sleepwalker says, I like to watch documentaries, TV series, YouTube videos on different topics. What kind of topics when you say different topics, out of interest? And hello, Anawat. Good to see you. And Shimi also asks about the word enable. Okay, that's an interesting question. So the reason why I asked about what you look forward to every day is I think it ties into motivation. Motivation is something that fascinates me because sometimes I feel very motivated to do things, and other times it's almost impossible to motivate myself to do things. And I find it very interesting to think about what the difference is between those different states, between the state of I feel motivated and I don't feel motivated. As you might guess, this is kind of connected to the fact that today's stream was supposed to be something else. I was supposed to prepare class on stress, but I found it impossible. My inspiration was not there. Neither was the motivation. Hello, Tom Kaiser. So today we are looking at questions about English. Let's have a look at what Sleepwalker asked here. Sleepwalker said, I'd like to know all the cases when we use the word rather. I'd like to know all the cases when we use the word rather. All the cases when we can use the word rather. Interesting. Okay, I'll do my best. So the first one that comes to mind is using rather as an adverb of quantity. No, adverb of degree. That's what it's called. As an adverb of degree. And in that circumstance, it means basically the same thing as pretty, quite. So example would be, she has rather a lot of friends. I feel rather cold. So an adverb of degree often used in conjunction with adjectives. In fact, can we use rather as an adverb of degree without adjectives? Let me think about that. That's a bit weird. He runs rather. I'm rather thinking. I'm rather thinking. People can say stuff like that, but it's not an adverb of degree. It's more like some sort of strange discourse marker. Okay, let's carry on with them anyway. So we'll say we won't call it an adverb of degree. We'll call it as an adverb adjective combination, like pretty and quite. So that's the first one that would come to my mind. Second, I would say, is like prefer. And when we use rather, like prefer, we always use it with would. So it's actually would rather. So I'd rather have another cup of coffee. No, I'd rather have a coffee than a tea. And if you use this with a different subject, like I'd rather, and then you want to talk about someone else, something else. Oh, sorry, I need to pause for 1 second. 1 second, everybody. 1 second. I've just had a very, very, very important phone call. Where's all my... All right, sorry about that, folks. So when you use rather like this and it's a different subject, so when I say I'd rather have a coffee than a tea, I'm talking about me. If I want to talk about someone else, then you must use the past, even though we're talking about the present. And this is an example of the unreal past. So I'd rather that you didn't shout. Notice the use of the past. I'd rather that you didn't shout. I'd rather that my coffee were hot. Notice were. And we know that the hypothetical, when we use the hypothetical or the unreal past, we prefer to use were instead of was. So I'd rather that you didn't shout. I'd rather that my coffee were hot. We can think of that structure as I'd rather plus past when it's a different subject. But when it's the same subject, it's a little bit simpler. It's just I'd rather plus infinitive. So that is the use of rather as prefer. Pepper's sitting on my lap, by the way. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm scratching my cat. Right, other uses of rather. So we can use it meaning something like instead of. And for this, we use rather than. So I want a coffee rather than a tea. Something like that. Can you hear Pepper purring? She just put her nose right onto the microphone. Go on, Pepper, do it again. That's fun. No. So I want a coffee rather than a tea. We can also use it as... Okay. Might stop using Google Docs. It's starting to drive me crazy a little bit. We can also use it, I rather think, to express a kind of light opinion. So this is something like, I'd probably suggest, or I think maybe, like that. It's that kind of idea. So it's like hedging with giving an opinion. Hedging means you're trying to make something a bit softer, so it's a bit more polite. So when we say, I rather think, it's like a hedged opinion. I rather think. So, I rather think you've drank enough, Mr. Smith. So it sounds a little bit old-fashioned as well, but it's quite nice as well. It's quite charming. I rather think you've drank enough. Something like that. All right. And then we can also use it for emphasis. Like, I suppose much like pretty and quite, actually. Again, it's similar to that idea of those adverbs of degree. But it can mean both. It's a weird thing, isn't it, with quite, that it can mean like more or less than what you think, depending on how you emphasize it. So like, it's rather a brilliant idea. It's rather a brilliant idea. Let's have a look at that, actually. It is rather a brilliant idea. Yeah, that structure is quite unique, actually, isn't it? He's rather a great teacher. You are rather wonderful students. It's taking a similar position to how we use the word such. Like, it's such a brilliant idea. I would say here with such and rather that such is greater. So such a brilliant idea is more brilliant, and rather a brilliant idea is very brilliant, but such a brilliant idea is more, a bit more. So we can use it like that. And there's kind of an old-fashioned way of using rather, where someone would say, do you like this coffee? Says Mr. Smith. And Miss Thompson says, rather. It's quite old-fashioned. Sounds almost like 1940s English. Something like that. Is that clear for everyone? I might have to kick you off, Pepper. I'm sorry. There's too much going on right now. Pallavi says, speak to me too. I'm just answering questions, Pallavi. Questions about English. Let me just make sure I haven't missed any. Live captions. Live captions. Amazing that you can do that now. Can we use rather in a comparative? Yes, Tom, and hopefully you saw that. Okay, Pepper, that's it. That's it. Enough. Stepping on the keyboard is the last straw. Right, I've got Dan's question as well. So we've got Dan, Manjula, and Shimi. Let's go for Shimi. Shimi says, I don't know how to use the word enable in a sentence. Really? Enable. Let's have a think about that. There's two main ways that I would use enable. I'd use enable to mean turn it on. So actually something like enable the lights. Sounds a little bit weird. So more frequently we might, when we say enable, we use it for settings, don't we? Turn it on as well for settings. Like software settings. And enable. Enable can also mean allow. Something else to happen. Yes. That's the main use. Enable. Allow something else to happen. So we need to dry the wood to enable it to burn. I will give you £100 to enable you to buy a new bike. Using the word listening to ProfRich enables students to use the word enable. Right? So it's like make the conditions possible for something to happen. And then we have enable in terms of turn it on. Let me just think about that. Yeah, so we often use it with software like we need to enable the antivirus software for before going on the internet. And go to settings and then enable two-step security on your Gmail account. So we use it for saying turn off and turn on settings in software. Ashley Chen says, what's the difference between be able to and enable? Enable means make it so we are able to. So, be able to means we can do it, and enable means make the situation so that we can do it. So, for example, we can say in two different ways. We could say having... Let me try to make this very simple. A car will enable us to travel to London. If we have a car, we will be able to travel to London. Okay, so these sentences are the same function. I hope that helps. Don't worry, Pallavi. I don't mind if someone repeats their question because I do miss questions sometimes. As long as they're not spamming in the chat, it's okay to repeat your question occasionally. So don't worry about that, Dan. It's okay. Because sometimes I do miss questions. I will get to your question in a minute. So nonplussed is actually something like you don't really care. I need to check this because it's different. The Americans and the British use it differently. And worryingly, I think I am more familiar with the American usage. That's so interesting. Yeah, so we have a different use of nonplussed in the UK and the US. By the way, nonplussed is adjective. And it's very interesting. I actually am familiar with the US one. The US one sounds more correct to me. So with the US one, it means not bothered or not impressed. So although she was very proud of her performance, the judges looked nonplussed. Which means they're like, yeah, so? So that is how I would use it, actually. I would use it like this. Other people think he's good, but when I saw him, I felt nonplussed, to be honest. However, the British version, apparently, means confused. So that's quite different, isn't it? And we have an example from Harry Potter. Cedric looked nonplussed. He looked from Bagman to Harry and back, as though sure he must have misheard what Bagman had said. So the UK version actually is confused. Do we have a GB flag? No. No. I don't know why. Does anyone know why the flag doesn't show up? I'd never understood that. We just get this like GB thing. I don't know. I don't know why. All right. So that should be you, Delaney. And now we're on to Dan. So Dan says, I managed to run 10 kilometers yesterday in under an hour. Can I use the preposition up to? Why are there double prepositions in underused? I like it. What do you do, Dan? Are you a student? I'm just interested because you often have quite intricate questions, or shall I say very specific questions. Babahan Bolu has to leave. That's okay. It was nice to see you here, though. Let me think about this one. Can I use the preposition up to? Managed to run 10 kilometers in under an hour. Let's simplify it a bit. Let's simplify it to I finish work. I finish work at 5 p.m. I finish work in an hour. I finish work in over an hour. Let's say under an hour. Right. Let's have a look at those different ones. You also said up to. I finish work up to an hour. No, you definitely can't say that. So get rid of that. What we could say is we could say I might finish work in up to an hour. No, that sounds really weird. Hang on, there is a way of doing this. Something like traveling to Berlin can take up to an hour, something like that. Okay, you can do it like that. But up to is also two prepositions. By the way, when we use up to like that, it means a maximum of. When we use up to like that. So let's have a look at these other ones. I'll just put that on the next page so we don't get confused. I finish work at 5 p.m. Yes. I finish work in an hour. Good. I finish work in under an hour. In under an hour. Why is it in under? Under an hour. So under here means less than, which means under is an adverb, not a preposition. Is that right? Is under an adverb here? What if we change it to I finish work in less than an hour? If we look at that one, less than an hour is a noun phrase, and the noun phrase is made up of noun, determiner, and then this less than. Give me a second. Right. All right, it's a little bit complicated. This is why taking a pure syntactical approach can sometimes not be the best idea, but I'm doing my best to answer your question here. So, under is indeed an adverb or an adverbial. And what we have is we have that adverb, that adverbial, combining with an hour, going into the prepositional phrase in an hour, and modifying it to mean in less than an hour. Syntactically, what's happening with in less than an hour is a bit different, although the meaning is identical. Now, from a purely syntactical standpoint, you should never get two prepositions next to each other. I'm not saying it's impossible, and in fact, I'm pretty sure it is possible. If my brain was working a bit better, I could probably give you an example. Nonetheless, what that does tell you is that most of the time, when you think you have two prepositions, what you actually have is a preposition and an adverb. That is the case for all three-word phrasal verbs, such as look forward to, that we had before, or get used to. Things like that. You know that you always have main verb or base verb, adverb, and then the preposition. And using that, we know that whatever comes after a preposition must be a noun or noun phrase. That's the traditional sort of grammar perspective, isn't it? That after a preposition, we must have a noun or a noun phrase, which is why we get the rather interesting situation of after looking forward to, we use ing instead of the infinitive. Normally after to, we use the infinitive. But here, because we know that we've got verb, adverb, and then preposition, and it takes a noun, then we use the ing. I'm starting to get a syntactical headache. I think you might need a follow-up question, Dan. Do you want to ask anything further? I'm not sure that my explanation was particularly useful there. Basically, the idea is something like it's an adverb. Sorry, I need to take a phone call again. 1 second, folks. All right, folks. Sorry about that. It's a bit of a crazy day today. Have you ever had a crazy day? Right. Dan, did you have a follow-up question to my answers there, my explanation? Let's finish off this coffee. Go into overdrive. Okay, I'm going to leave that with you, Dan. If you have a follow-up question, let me know. Because I feel like we need a bit more of a discussion about this. I'm not happy about my answer, and I think there's a bit more to it. But I need some feedback. This is where being in a classroom is quite helpful. Right. Pallavi says, teacher, can you pronounce apologies in slow motion? In slow motion? All right. Apologies. 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 Right, there you go. That's your slow motion, big mouth pronunciation of the day. Next, Mina says, can you pronounce inadequate? Inadequate. All right, go on. Inadequate. 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 Is this going to be a thing where people ask me to pronounce a word and another word and another word, and then some video comes out where I'm saying like, hello, everyone. I am apologies for being... Okay. Hi, says Zaro Ribes. Is around the hour the same as in under an hour? Is the around an hour? The around an hour? Okay, Zara, I'm very confused by what you're saying there, but I'm going to do my best here. So, around an hour. Around an hour means approximately an hour. Under an hour means no more than an hour, which also means a maximum of an hour, right? I will call you in under an hour means I will call you in a maximum of 1 hour. Whereas I will call you in around an hour means I will call you in about or approximately an hour, or even I will call you in an hour, more or less. More or less, very useful phrase, more or less. All right, we've got another Dan question. You can turn off the TV by pressing that button. Can I admit by? Yeah, you can. And personally, I wouldn't put a comma there either. I wouldn't put a comma there. Just give me a second, because this is the thing about punctuation is, although we like to pretend that punctuation is very rule-based, there's actually a lot of disagreement in how to use certain punctuation. So when I have an inclination about punctuation, I often need to check it. You certainly can omit by, that's for sure. And I wouldn't have the comma, actually. Sorry, you should have the comma, because otherwise it changes the meaning. I'm having a good one today, aren't I? Right, so let's get this clear. You can turn off the TV. Why are your examples always so complicated, Dan? Let's make it simpler. You know what? Forget it. I'm just going to use your example. You can turn off the TV by pressing that button. You can turn off the TV, comma, pressing that button. That's needed because it's a separate clause. And because we're saying with the method of pressing that button, then we need it. What I was thinking of was something like, he ran down the street carrying a bag of water. And in this case, I believe there should be no comma. Because it's a participle phrase and we're talking about this being, he ran down the street. He ran down the street and he was carrying a bag of water. Carrying a bag of water describes what he was doing while he ran down the street. So no comma there. But yes, we do need a comma here. We do need a comma here. Alexander says, I was surprised to hear that native speakers use they for a single person sometimes. Had I understood correctly? Yes. And this is not neo-gender politics, okay? This is not a new gender thing. Traditionally, we have for singular person of unknown gender. You might say, well, when do you not know the gender of someone? Well, for example, we need to hire a new teacher. They will need to have 5 years experience, for example. We need to hire a new teacher. They will need to have 5 years experience. And we've got some more pronunciation questions. Teacher, not that one. I meant, can you pronounce apologize in slow motion? I did that. Did you miss it? Apologize. Did I say the wrong thing? Where are we? Oh, apologize. 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 Is that it? Yeah, the internet's going a bit crazy, Sleepwalker. I'm going to assume it's YouTube because often it is. Anouat says, regarding my previous homework, an adverb collocation, utterly disappointed. How can I better memorize them given the multitude of options, such as deeply, seriously, blatantly, vaguely, and more? That's a really good question, Anouat. I want you to bear in mind that people will often not use the complete range. So you don't need to know all of them. Or, sorry, that's not the right thing to say. You don't need to have them all in your active vocabulary. Having them in your passive, receptive vocabulary is sufficient, and just choose one collocation for your active vocabulary. If you get very familiar with it, and later if you find that you're overusing it, then you can move into learning a few more. But don't feel that you should learn like 10 collocations for disappointed, right? The one that I tend to use is absolutely. Of course, that doesn't collocate very well with disappointed. With disappointed, I would use incredibly disappointed. I also quite like phenomenally. One strategy that you can take with this, Anouat, is you could learn, for example, 5 different adverb adjective collocations and then start to mix them as you get more confident with how you can mix them. And how do you get more confident? Just read and listen to English. And as your passive vocabulary improves on that subject, then you'll feel more confident about mixing the collocations which you've learned. So you could, for example, learn incredibly interested, absolutely fascinated, utterly amazed, totally worn out, and "100% knackered." Okay, that's very colloquial. Let's use a different one. You're going to want it now, aren't you? Let's put it there. 100% knackered. So you could learn those, for example, personalize them, use them in different ways, get them into your active vocabulary, and then you can start to mix and match over time as you become more confident with how to use them. These are feeling collocations. I am 100% knackered. Thank you, Domenico. Have a lovely day. Oh, thank you, by the way, for the coffee, Domenico. Forgot to mention it. That was last week. Domenico bought me a coffee. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Do not feel the need that you have to do anything like that, but of course I do appreciate it. There is a link down below if you wish to make any kind of donation. I am not a wealthy person, in case you wondered. Being an English teacher, this is a quote from Manuel Gordillo. Being an English teacher, or being a teacher, does not pay the bills. And he's right. So there was a question actually from Manuel, and I don't seem to have it saved, but you said something about your fluency, and you used the phrase shallow fluent. Shallow fluent. I've not heard that before. Shallow fluent. I've not heard that phrase, actually. It's a level of language proficiency where a person can communicate effectively in everyday situations but lacks a deep understanding of complex grammar, vocabulary, or cultural nuances. No, I disagree. Who said that to you? That's not true. You're not shallow fluent. No. Your fluency is good. Actually, I'm not going to keep going on about it, but the biggest problem you have is accuracy and pronunciation. But shallow fluent sounds like someone who lacks vocabulary in order to express themselves. You don't. You don't lack vocabulary in order to express yourself. Your vocabulary is very good. You make a lot of mistakes and your pronunciation's a bit off sometimes for obvious reasons. So I don't think that shallow fluent is an accurate description of your English. Yeah, it's tough, Pallavi. Try to eat well, try to sleep well, don't drink coffee at night. I'm suffering as well at the moment. Life is tough sometimes, isn't it? You just have to fight on. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do another IELTS class, Domenico. I'll try and do one on Saturday, okay? And we'll try to get some IELTS practice questions in there. There's something I wanted to do on this channel. I've wanted to do it for a while, which is I want to bring people on live and talk live. So I think let's plan that for Saturday. Let's say on Saturday we're going to try and do that. I have a very, very super busy Saturday this week, actually. That is super busy. But nevertheless, I think we should try and do that. So, yeah, this Saturday. So, I think what I would say about that is if you want to participate, then can you make sure you join the Discord server? And I'm going to use the Discord server so that people can participate in that. If you're interested in talking live, answering some IELTS questions live and getting feedback, then join the Discord server. And I'll try to make that happen for Saturday. That's the plan. We'll make it for Saturday. Yes. I don't drink coffee at all, teacher. Good job, Pallavi. You're very healthy. Just make sure that you're getting enough sunlight, that you're doing exercise. Keep your body as healthy as possible, and your mind will follow. The reason I'm moving away from Zoom, Alexander, is I'm no longer paying a Zoom subscription. I've stopped my Zoom subscription. It's a lot of money, and there's lots of options out there now, so I just don't see the point. It's still... I think Zoom is still pretty much the best option, but it's not quite good enough to justify the subscription. So I'm going to use Discord for that. Discord is very easy for me to bring people on and put people away. I think the one that most people use is Streamlabs. No, not Streamlabs. What is it? XSplit? I don't even know. I have no idea. I don't know what people use, but people obviously use the same thing because I always see it. And it's the one where you have these little round circles and they kind of jump and move when people talk. I have no idea what it is, though. It might even be Discord. Does anyone have any more questions? Alexander says, recent research showed that exercises can compensate some sleep. That's an interesting question that you're saying. That's an interesting idea, Alexander. What do you mean by compensate some sleep? Who would you choose to speak, Pallavi? Hopefully everyone would have an opportunity to speak, Pallavi, but I would take people in one at a time. Google Meet. Do you really like Google Meet? I'm not a fan of Google Meet at all. It's free. That's about the best thing for it, but the interface is horrible. Compensate some sleep. So, are you saying that exercise actually helps substitute for sleep? I'm not. That's a very interesting thing to say. Exercise is just so important, isn't it? It's just so important, and we just do not get enough of it. I was just asking, I don't want to speak. Yeah, you do want to speak. We'll bring you on. All right, everybody, make sure you come on Saturday. Pallavi is going to be coming on to do some IELTS. Maybe WebEx or StreamYard. StreamYard, I think that's the one. I've heard that one a lot. Then about WebEx. Yeah, maybe WebEx as well. Thanks for mentioning that, Zaro. I'll take a look. Not that I really need that stuff. It's not like I have loads of guests on. I did invite some people. Just didn't really hear anything else. How do ventriloquists talk without moving their mouth, especially p, f, v, and b? You can do substitutes, Anawat. So instead of p, you do like a t, 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 tita. 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 Yeah, you're right. It's difficult, isn't it? And what about f? We can just do a th, no? A thought. A thought tita. A thought tita. A thought tita would come. Should we do a class of ventriloquism? Whoa. Delani, you can talk. IELTS doesn't have a level. IELTS is an exam you can take at any level. And I think you could definitely talk. Dan says make a video on verbal nouns, the plus gerund. Verbal nouns, the plus gerund. Let me think about that. Verbal nouns? Verbal nouns. Where do you get these things from? Verbal nouns. A noun formed as an inflection of a verb and partly sharing its construction, such as smoking is forbidden. What? That's just a noun used as a... That's just a verb used as a noun. Verbal noun, of course. A noun used as a verb. Right. However, you've talked about the. Oh, it's nominalization. Right. These days we call it nominalization. I think verbal noun must be the older term for it. Yeah, so these days we call that nominalization. Nominalization means making something into a noun. For example, you take a clause and you make it into a noun. So you take a clause like, he went to the shops, and then we make it into a noun. Him going to the shops is the thing I didn't like. Okay? Or I didn't like the fact that... No, I didn't like him going to the shops. Like that. Yeah, so this process is called nominalization, which is... Nominalization, fancy way to say make into a noun. So that's what you're talking about. I don't like the term verbal nouns. I'll tell you why. Because when you said verbal, I thought you meant of voice, right? So like verbal feedback means feedback by speaking. Because it's verbal, right? Not written, but verbal. Right. So, yeah, this idea, I don't like that verbal noun. Let's call it nominalization is better. Or even better, we'll just call it making things into nouns. But yeah, okay, the fancy term nominalization. I would absolutely love to do a class on that. I've been thinking about that grammar point actually for some time. So let's put a pin in that. And maybe I'll do that. So we want IELTS, bring people on, and nominalization. Brilliant. Pachu says, a class on nominalization, inverse hedging. I've definitely done hedging, and I've definitely done inversion. Like recently, in the last 6 months, Pachu. Those topics definitely have been covered. I think on Oxford Online English, actually. So yes, I will need to do the topics here, because I would like to have a complete library of everything. So then I can just say, hey, check out this video I did. Speaking live, I can't do it, says Beloved. You have to think, Delani, that it's not just about being shy. Sometimes it's very difficult to find the time or the area where you can do something like that. So I do understand that circumstance. Right, everybody, I am going to have to go now. So thank you very much for joining me today. Smash that like button. This stream will not be public on the channel for longer than a few days. So if you want to watch this stream again, you can only do that this week. I just want to remind you all that the homework is here. So this is the homework for Saturday. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today. It's been my pleasure. I hope it's been useful. And I'll catch you on Saturday, everybody. Stay well. Keep going. My name's been ProfRich. See you later.